Hello there, Aisha Nicole. It's AishaNicole.com. Hoping you can see me okay. I just wanted to go live really, really briefly and talk about womb trauma. I know I posted something yesterday in my Heal the Woman, Heal the World group about what is womb trauma, etc. I'm also going live on YouTube. So for my YouTube audience, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. That would be very helpful to me and it'll help with the algorithm so more people can get this information. But just to dive right into it, what is womb trauma? A lot of people associate womb trauma with just rape or molestation, and womb trauma can cover, it's just such a broader spectrum than that. You can have experienced womb trauma at your first gynecological pap smear exam, depending on the nature of the appointment and how things went with that particular gynecologist. Was it like gentle? Was it abrasive? Were they insensitive? I know my first was with a very old man who wasn't very gentle. It was a traumatic experience for me. I remember crying during it, not because it hurt so much, but just the whole experience was invasive. That can create what's called a womb imprint. So whenever you have had any type of invasion, if for lack of a better word, into your womb, into your vagina, into that particular area, that could leave a womb imprint, just like rape or molestation can do so. But it doesn't always have to be that. And I just kind of wanted to clarify that. First of all, what is the womb? The womb is the house of your uterus, your vagina, your fallopian tubes, your ovaries. It's what houses that particular area. A lot of people think that the womb is just the uterus, and it is not just the uterus, which is why I was stating you can still have womb trauma even if you had a hysterectomy. You don't have to have a uterus to still have a womb. Everybody that's born a female has a womb, whether the uterus is there or not. If the uterus was removed, yes, that can cause womb trauma for you. If one of your fallopian tubes or one of your ovaries was removed, that can create womb trauma for you. If you have developed fibroids or endometriosis, that can create womb trauma for you. So it doesn't always have to be something that was done externally to you from somebody else. I just wanted to clarify that one. So other things that can be classified as womb trauma. You had sex with somebody that you didn't really want to, so was it rape? No, because you consented to it, but you really didn't want to do it, but you went along with it for whatever reason. That can leave a negative imprint on your womb and create womb trauma. So if you visualize your womb like a bowl, right? All it's going to collect all of these things over time. You're 15 years old and you let the boy hump on you in the stairwell and you didn't want to do that, but you did it anyway because you didn't want to not be liked. That can create a womb imprint or womb trauma within the body. So there are several different things that could occur. You just not honoring yourself, you not standing up for yourself around something that was sexual can create womb trauma for you. Okay. And all of these things can collect over time inside of the womb region and manifest issues when you become older later on in life as an adult. One of the main issues that I see that's often manifested is fibroids for a lot of people. All dis-ease, good morning, Tutu, has a metaphysical or an emotion that's connected to it. Okay. So the emotion connected to fibroids is anger. And a lot of women are dealing with fibroids or have dealt with fibroids. That's why a lot of people have had hysterectomies because of fibroids. Like, you know what? Your womb is full. There's just so much going on in here. It's just easier for us to take the womb out. Okay. That's not always the best result, but it might be the best result for you at the time. Some women have had hysterectomies and didn't have a choice. They went in for pain, for a cyst or something like that, and woke up with no womb because they signed a form when their pain was a 10, not reading everything detailed that said, hey, if we go in here and we find a whole bunch of stuff going on, we're just going to take your womb. I have heard that story from more women than not. I mean, I can think of 3 right now off the top of my head that I know personally that had that happen to them. That can create womb trauma for you. So again, whether you have a uterus or you don't have a uterus, you still can store this trauma. And what does that manifest as? What does that look like? Um, a woman that may hold a lot of shame in her life, a woman that's not necessarily living up to her highest potential because subconsciously she may not have felt like she protected herself, so she may not feel worthy. Lots of women that have womb trauma deal with feelings of worthlessness or just not feeling worthy of certain things, not going for things, for opportunities, for jobs, for whatever, because they don't feel worthy. Self-worth is a huge, huge thing. Hey, cousin, I see you. So, with that being said, a nice percentage of people have womb trauma. I think 2 out of 3. If you have grown up here in this United States and you don't have any, particularly if you grew up through the age of music and misogyny that was in music, i.e., like gangster rap, and you grew up listening to a bitch is a bitch and bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks and a hoe is a hoe, how do you think that impacted your self worth? What kind of imprint do you think that would leave on your womb listening to that type of music? We had the Too Short E40 thing that happened last month, and I watched it on Instagram. I enjoyed it. That's a lot of music that I grew up on, that I grew up listening to. But when I was listening to it and singing all of the lyrics verbatim, okay, there was shame that started coming up in me because, one, I know better at this particular age. I know about subconscious imprints that our outside environment can have on our overall health, right? So I'm listening to the songs and I'm singing along with it, but I started feeling the shame coming up in me for even knowing the damn songs. Now, I'm not going to fault myself from the past. I was a teenager, but I was listening to that stuff on headphones as a kid. So it's just pounding into my mind, into my subconscious over and over and over again that really I'm worthless, that really I'm not worth anything but a fuck, or to get money from, or to get somebody to do something for. And while I know, my higher self knows that that's not true, your child, the little Aisha, didn't know anything. So I've spent a lot of time and a lot of work undoing some of those beliefs, because it will show up in your relationships, your worthlessness, being afraid to ask for certain things, or not wanting to appear as a gold digger, because I grew up learning that those things were considered bad. That's a whole other live that I don't want to go off on a tangent on, and I can because I'm very passionate about how music has developed Generation X and just our overall generation, the boys and the girls, the men and the women. But back to the womb trauma. All that stuff still created negative womb imprints. Even dealing with dudes or little boys that were listening to that, and they come at you that way. The type of sex that you may have been having at a particular time that wasn't filled with love or wasn't filled with compassion, and you guys are just fucking. And fucking has its place. This is not me dispelling that, It's just talking about all of the things that can create womb trauma. If you just want to be banged out like this and it's your choice, cool, right? You're a sovereign being, you're a woman, it's your vagina, do what you want to do. But if you didn't want to do that, and that's just the way that the dude showed up, because that's how he learned that's what sex is supposed to be like. He learned how to have sex from watching porn or from listening to his boys or listening to this music, and he's just banging your back out and calling you all kind of bitches and hoes and shit like that, and you don't want that, that can create a negative womb imprint for you. If that's the only way that you feel or have learned how to have sex, that could create negative womb imprints for you, because your subconscious mind is like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm more than that. I'm more than a bitch, a whole blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be called that during sex, but you don't speak up for yourself and you still acquiesce and go along with it. Boom, womb imprint, and that can create womb trauma. So, like I said, this was going to be a short video. I just wanted to go into the different things that can create womb trauma. It does not always have to be somebody penetrated you and you didn't want to. It doesn't mean you have to have been raped. It doesn't have to mean a dirty old man or old woman touched you when you were a kid. It doesn't have to be any of those things. It could be just some shit that was said to you inappropriately that you believed. So that's a good point. Being raped and thinking it was your fault because you're told if you didn't want it, you wouldn't have gone over there. Or if you didn't want it, you wouldn't have shown up after midnight. You know what it is. If you didn't want it, you wouldn't have went into the bedroom with this. I don't give a damn what the circumstances were. If you went over there and you was butt naked, laid in the bed with somebody, no is no. If you decided you didn't want to do something, then no is no. So forgiving ourselves for things that happened in the past or that we allowed happen to us is part of womb trauma healing. Sometimes you're going to have to go into that, maybe via meditation or visualization, visualize the perpetrator if it was a specific person or persons, and forgive yourself for allowing that to happen to yourself. Recomfort your little self that you allowed to be put in that type of a situation because you didn't protect your little self for whatever reason. You were a kid, so you might not have known how to protect yourself. But your little self is still in there jumping up and down, acting a fool, sometimes making decisions for us, sometimes showing up in our relationships at the wrong time because you didn't give that little self a voice to cry out, particularly if you didn't say anything about who may have violated you, if you kept that to yourself. Your little self is like, yo, what the hell, man? I'm upset. I'm angry. I'm scared. So sitting with yourself, maybe taking some time and writing down some of the things that may have happened in your past, some stuff you may have blocked out and don't even remember. That happens a lot of times. That's how your body or your mind protects itself from just going crazy. Like you might have to block certain shit out. But if you notice that, you keep ending up in the same types of relationships, you keep dealing with bum ass dudes that don't really value you. You keep ending up in relationships where you have to continually reaffirm, I'm valuable, I'm valuable, I'm valuable. You may have some womb trauma that needs to be cleared out. And nobody can do that for you. You have to do that yourself. Now, there are facilitators, there are therapists. I do womb healing work. There are other people that do womb trauma work. But it has to start with identifying with yourself that, I may have some trauma that I need to clear out. There may have been some stuff that happened to me in my past, in my teens, in my 20s, in my 30s, or even right now. Right? You could be in a relationship that's creating and contributing to your womb trauma. You're rolling over and laying with somebody that you really don't want to lay with. That's creating more womb trauma for you. So I'm going to come back and do another live later because I have an appointment coming up in 10 minutes. But I just kind of wanted to address other things that are womb trauma. And yes, you can heal that. You just have to recognize what it is, address it, and then the course of action on how to heal that will reveal itself. Share this video with anyone that you think may need it. Thank you for taking time out to listen to me. I will be back later on with more information. AishaNicole.com for more information on anything else that I do. Peace and love yourselves.